3, 2, 1. We're live. What's up, everybody?
You're looking live on YouTube.
Let's go check it out. Get a sound check
Get a
here.
sound check.
Sure.
Sound check.
I can't do the checker.
I got it.
T's got it.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll get started here in a momento. There we go. Uh-oh.
All right.
We're operating on all cylinders.
Why isn't this working?
I hope everyone had a chance to see at least some of the action this past week. We'll get to all of the action that we covered.
I have no audio.
Well, there's nothing on yet, dude.
On YouTube, though, we should hear our voices, right?
You'll hear your voices.
Are you trying?
No, you want me to? Get this cord in my ear. Hold on. Stand by. I see a notification.
Let's see who we have on so far. We're going to get Ricky. I'm sure Ricky's going to be around.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Richard?
We're
But
good.
I can't get
Okay,
audio.
we'll figure it out.
Audio check confirmed.
Really? All right.
There we go.
Oh.
All right.
There we go. I don't know
We'll
why
give
it's
Ricky a
not
chance.
Table. Get this away from the table.
Catch up with us in post. He can chart himself throughout the show. All right, here we go. We got 5. All right.
Yep.
Is this the hard start?
It is indeed. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us on another Tuesday night. We appreciate you guys joining us for the WCAC Spectacular. I'm Ken Marangolo on behalf of First Amendment Sports. Basement Podcast Studios everywhere. We appreciate you hanging out with us. He's Kevin Ricka.
Man, I love you guys are hanging out with us tonight, especially on our old buddy's birthday. Big number
It is.
44, the Rigo birthday is in full effect here in the basement. Happy birthday, bro.
He's
I appreciate
Tim
that.
Strachan, birthday boy.
I appreciate that. It's been a good birthday. I'm glad I'm ending it here on a regular Tuesday night with you guys, talking a little WCAC football. It was awesome going from the basement back to the booth with
Yep.
you guys this past weekend.
That's right. It was your first weekend.
It was.
I feel like I've done 100 of them, but mostly because it was a 10-hour game.
Yeah.
He's Matt, the Real Deal Seal.
Happy birthday, T.
Thanks.
Good to be back at the table, fellas. Sorry to miss you all on Saturday, but I know it was action-packed.
It was action-packed. I'm going to give you a tiny bit more volume over there.
thank you.
I want to welcome in our fifth wheel tonight, but in a good way, like the trailer sense, like you're going camping
it's
for the
well
weekend.
oiled. It's ready to
Best
go.
way.
Not it very
not
much. You can
squeaky
get
at
a
all.
lot of you can pack it with a lot of stuff, and you're going to be able to really stay away from home for at least a long weekend with this man, Tim. Ready? Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2019 WCAC Spectacular. The Good Counsel Superfan is president and accounted for, also class of 1994.
Pride of Good Counsel, class of '94. We're gonna come back to
Superfan.
the
Come back to
Superfan
Superfan.
from Good Counsel, because we do want to start with where we were on Saturday, which was week 2 of the WCAC on First Amendment Sports. We were at Fernandez Stadium as Deerfield Beach, the Bucks from Miami, traveled up to see the Cadets off Military Road. So, for putting the game aside for a moment, it was cool that we'd been there the week before, and it kind of felt like we're like in the middle of the season. The St. John's people are great; they are in mid-season form from top to bottom. Obviously, the coaching staff and
Because they practice all year.
they
but that's another
practice
story.
well. They practice being ready for. I mean, the men at St. John's are all over the place, feeding us
Breakfast.
and,
They fed us breakfast.
making sure we're
You're talking about
hydrated.
The pre-game setup. And
Oh, yeah, it's a
it was
well-oiled
very- It was
machine.
very well done.
Our guys, Luke, David, and Victor Maddox were there early, also getting everything ready at Automatic Sports. We appreciate them. Matt Seal, obviously, on paid leave this
It was
past week.
approved. It was approved.
It was approved PTO, and I was very happy with our ability just to be able to show people what an awesome day it was, because it just was an awesome day. And getting to the game, Kevin will lead off with you. St. John's didn't have a whole lot to prove after giving up 0 in week 1. Really looking good, playing a lot of guys, and starting the season off feeling great. I don't know if that how that makes practice in the next week, because you feel pretty good about yourself after a day like that. But you got a good team coming up from Florida.
Yeah, well, when you sign up to play at St. John's College High School, you understand that there's no taking your foot off the gas pedal on a weekly basis. Who is it? The number 3 team, the number 17, a league rival. It doesn't matter. So these kids have learned to know better than that. I think getting up 31-0 and then taking their foot off the gas pedal a tad bit and letting. I'm not saying that Deerfield got back into the game, but they were able to, scram 30 points together.
Yep.
And, it was a bit of a – it's almost like they could have closed up shop. They could have shut it all down before halftime. And, a couple things happened, and, one thing goes another way, and a young man comes in off the bench with a Manziel-like performance.
Oh, my God.
I mean, we had a lot of descriptions for him. But, yeah, Ken, there's not going to be shouldn't be. This is something they need to learn from week in, week out. You're up 31-0. You can't let someone put 30 back on you. And I think the coaching staff got a great dose of what they need to do this week to prepare for an excellent St. Joe's prep team.
Well, the other part of that I was thinking is when you look at the score, and the score, you think the score is trying to tell you a story, and St. John's was in control and in command of the game. That's true. But how impressive was it, the manner in which Xavier Restrepo is able to come in and perform like that against St. John's? Good on him for that.
No, this kid, he started off the game as a wide receiver. I think he played a little bit of D as well. He's a
Miami. And he played outside linebacker. He's a hybrid safety, strong safety
Miami
linebacker
commit.
type.
Duron King, the Deerfield's quarterback, was struggling a little bit. We'll get to that in a minute, but he was unable to go. And Restrepo comes in. We thought that Michael Pratt, the recent transfer Tulane commit quarterback backup, was going to maybe go in the game. He got cleared medically, but apparently maybe wasn't ready or prepared because of his injury. They throw this Restrepo kid in there, and he plays the position just about as perfect as you can play it, especially for someone who probably hasn't had a whole lot of reps, and it's certainly not his natural position. His footwork was atrocious, but his accuracy and his timing was ridiculous. And that's what got Deerfield a little bit of momentum, and they started finding some success, and then kids started making plays for them. And we said it on the air, iron sharpened iron this weekend. Yes, St. John was clearly the better team in control, but both those teams, and for some of the reasons you just said, Kevin, St. John's learned some lessons here, right? I think Deerfield got way better this past weekend, and it was a fun game to watch despite the difference in the final score.
Yeah, when Restrepo's done at Miami or wherever else he wants to do, I want him on my Turkey Bowl team. He's a backyard. He's a backyard baller.
That's the game he played against St. John's. That was the most impressive part because we were talking about it. Well, how did he had a couple good footback stances under center, but when he would take his kind of lollygag 3-step drop on his shotgun, he looked like he was playing in the BFFL.
Yeah, he did. And I do want to make this point and be certainly clear about it. We haven't discussed any of the reasons why St. John's was up 31-0 in this game before the backyard baller got his hands on the pigskin. St. John's was a well-oiled machine. They were running the ball. He talked about it. They were going left, right, up the middle. They were running the ball. They had 4 different guys rush for 50-plus yards.
Including the quarterback.
Rakim was just, used sparingly, and when he was in there, he made huge plays. And our boy Jamel Overton getting his first touchdown as a senior with a pick 6 on top. What a day for number 1-5 out there. They had Sol J was lights out. I think he started 7 for 7. He came out smoking and just couldn't miss his spot. And then, they kind of settled in. I got a little complacent. And
they were playing everybody, and
they were playing a lot of guys.
I got to say this, though.
And I wasn't so much complacent. It was playing a lot of guys, and then, you start off that crisply.
And we'll talk about how hot it was, again, in just a second. But what I find most intriguing about St. John's is I don't think I've seen a high school team as prepared. And again, it goes back to what Ken was saying, down to the men at St. John's setting up that day. I mean, everything is just done so it's done almost on the next level.
Yeah, to a science.
To the way that these kids are this early in the year, the way that they're executing, right? And I know that they were definitely better than both teams they've played, and they've got a huge gauntlet coming, but they look to be about as prepared as a high school team can be, getting ready to go up against what their schedule's about to put.
I've just got one stat before we move on. The four main running threats, the 3-headed dynamo running back, I think is the best 3-way go in the nation. You throw in Sol J, who out in the open field with a 4.6 and wiggle.
Because everybody's keeping their eye on the other 3. It opens it up for
the
them.
4 of them have 52 rushes this year for 528 yards.
Geez.
That means anytime one of those 4 guys gets a hand on the ball, it's 10 plus. That's disgusting.
It's amazing.
7 touchdowns and 0 turnovers. That's getting it done the first 2 weeks of the season.
And
how about that St. John's O line creating
both the
that 10
offensive and the
yards?
defensive
Yeah.
line?
Yeah, no doubt.
Winning in the trenches. The game was won by those guys. What I wanted to say was the first 2 weeks of the season at St. John's. I wanted to give the student section a hat tip. I think they, the themes that they've had, they come out a lot of spirit. The heat and the length of the game probably hurt the student section, but I just want to throw the gauntlet out there. We've seen St. John's student section 2 weeks. We're going to be at Good Counsel. We're certainly going to be at Gonzaga, and then we get to come back, and the student section in St. John's gets to take us home in the last 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to. I love the student section is as much a part of high school sports and college sports as it gets, and I think they deserve their due. And I think there are student sections in this league that are notoriously their reputation precedes them, and I think the Gonzaga student section deserves a little props there as well.
You're really banging the drum for
I'm
these
banging the
student
drum.
sections, aren't you?
I am.
But
If he takes his shirt off before your birthday is over, then I'm going to be
shirt
furious.
stays on. There's no Eagles in this basement.
Gone before that happens.
But they're part of they're part of our show. We're there. They're part of what we do on Saturdays. So I want to make sure they know that we're looking. We love to put them on. And if someone said, "Aren't you afraid? Someone's going to cuss or something bad?" And I said, "No, I'm not."
Well, it's over the internet anyway, so
it's true. I do.
That's
that's our general counsel.
And the one
That's
guy
right.
had overalls
Sir,
on,
thank
which
you.
makes everything
we're
fine.
no-
Makes everything fine, but,
legal
You wear overalls and no
regulatory-
shirt.
Kara
You're
Maloney
allowed
put it
to
to the
say
test
anything.
last year when she took a microphone into the stands. We're all like, "Oh my, what is she doing?
Oh,
What is
oh,
she doing?" In the
I was gonna
Gonzaga student
say,
section at St. John's.
I don't
for
recall
football.
her wearing overalls.
No, she wasn't wearing overalls. But thankfully, no one's ever kind of violated the First Amendment sports trust.
The code?
The code.
All right.
So we're coming. Let's talk a little bit about what made the game, a longer affair, and that was Deron King. He goes out of the game with cramps. That's where Xavier Restrepo came from. He stays in the game to hold.
Well, he came back to hold.
He came back to
in to
hold.
hold.
Minutes later.
And he did
yes.
not look good. We saw it on the air. We noticed it right away. This guy's not right. Hopefully, he doesn't do more than hold, if anything. And then with 10 minutes and 4 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, everything stops. Brian Griffin, the athletic director from St. John's, is on the field making sure the referee knows, hey,
He essentially stopped play.
game off.
Yeah.
Wayne and Garth had to pull the goal away from the middle of the street. There's, I guess they got Deron King was cramped up. He was dehydrated. He was having heat-related, conditions. And you take it as seriously as you should. And we all know that's,
Yeah, I
you gotta take it
didn't
seriously.
quite know what was going on until I first, and I don't know the young man's name, but it was number 13 for St. John's. It was the first one to pop up and run to midfield to grab 2 Gatorade bottles or Gatorade buckets from an SJC staff member. And I go, wait a second, something's going on.
Yep.
And then just to see how everybody jumped into action everywhere was an awesome thing, because the game became secondary. It was about his health and just how. Thank you to everybody and everything you did to help Deron King, and he's good. Now
Yes.
He's good. That's the good news.
When you said it before about how the setup from the men of St. John's all
Yep.
the way through to the football team, the preventative maintenance that was put in place
Yep.
with the cold tub right there ready to go. Everyone, it was almost like the fire drill had been run many, many times. And to see the eagerness and the
clip's out there. The clip's out there. Go check
both
it out.
O
if you haven't seen
linemen,
it yet.
a handful of coaches, O line, D line, carrying this tub across.
half the
I
team.
saw Soul J come over, and you saw 13.
Oh, yeah.
I see the starting quarterback come over, grab a bucket of ice, and full sprint over, full sprint back to fill it up again. You're just seeing these people that you respect in this community, and to a player, to a coach, and led by Griff. That was just as a St. John's alum, you guys were nailing it. I didn't have much to say. I was trying to get a hold of my dad and find out. I said, please tell me some good news, and thank God he did. He said his vitals are good. He's communicating. He's in a full body cramp. He's going to get an IV. They're going to get him out of here, but they've got his body temperature regulated. So, you talk about what we don't even want to think about what could have been, but it wasn't, because of the preventative maintenance put in place, the ingenuity of the St. John's football team, and how they reacted under pressure. Forget about football. One of the best things I've ever witnessed on that
Correct.
field that I've grown up on for the last 35 years of my life.
Yep.
It was amazing.
4 hours and 3 minutes later, we call it a day, and we start getting awesome feedback from ideally updated medical condition. We found out I think Trey Williams, who had gotten a little bit banged up on the day. Is he going to miss any time? Do we
I'm
know
not
for
sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
He looked like he was favoring one side over the other. Thankfully, no other injuries that I saw that were on the field other than like some cramps. Mordecai
You're
was,
gonna
like he
start
was a little
getting.
cramped.
You're gonna start getting those bangs and those bruises and those pains that are part of the game.
Are you talking about being 44 again, dude?
Hey,
It's tough out
I
there,
have to
man.
deal with it every day.
Rigo.
What up, Rigo?
Why don't we move on to bring in Tim because
He's been very patient.
he has
Bring it
been
on,
very
Tim.
patient. The whole conference was in action. And that includes Our Lady of Good Counsel. Tim Reddy, please tell us how it went against Charlotte Catholic.
Well, Charlotte Catholic did not impress, and I know they were coming up here on a hot weekend. The final score was 7-0, and Good Counsel's invested back in the spot that carried them a long way last year, and that's with their offensive line. These guys are about 290 across the board, and they just look huge out there. And they're protecting for a talented quarterback and some good backs back there. Just real quick, let me run through the offensive line. We got Landon Tengwall, number 72, the left tackle coming back, the junior All-American. At left guard, we've got Xavier Ricks, number 73. Center is William Leatherwood, 75. Right guard is Cameron Arosha, 77. And the right tackle is David Smith, and he's a 10th grader, number 68. And Cole Heflin is back, the senior, my man, number 11, is their tight end out there. And these boys are mean. They are very well coached. They are technical. They come off the ball, and they finish blocks. But they're blocking for some good guys. They got Savion Wilkerson this year as a senior.
Oh,
He
yeah,
was
we
the
know
hero.
him.
He's awesome.
He was the hero of the Gonzaga game last year. He's back. He's carrying the mail most of the time. But they have a couple other guys they're using too. Number 15 is Sean Aaron. He played fullback for them last year out of necessity, but he was out of position. He was really a tailback. So they've got him getting carries at tailback. And they also brought in number 26, Lee J. Hatcher. He was another tailback that they used.
He's
But
a
their
youngster. I
quarterback,
think he's the sophomore. He's super talented,
Yep.
man.
he's young. They got some young guys out there they're trying to mix in. The quarterback is Trace Campbell. He's a junior. They also played Chase Williams. He's a 10th grader, so he got a couple reps at QB. The fullback
That's
is a
interesting.
monster. Damani Dickerson, a senior, 260 pounds. He looks enormous back there.
Well, Tim,
Um,
tell us what they did on offense to dominate Charlotte Catholic the way it seems and sounds like they did.
Well, Good Counsel was their own worst enemy in the game. Now, they run a very basic offense. They run the old school power or I formation, twins, pro, tight ends, two receivers,
The way
fullback,
football is meant
tailback.
to be played,
Yeah.
Tim.
Happy
Andy
birthday.
Stefanelli way.
It is, but from a fan's perspective, it may not be that exciting, but it doesn't matter if it gets the jobs done. It controls the clock. Now, the biggest issue Good Counsel had was they had a fumble inside the 10 going into score. They had some penalties inside the red zone that cost them. They missed a field goal. So this game was 0-0 until the third quarter when they finally broke through, scored a touchdown, and it stayed on the board. But ultimately, their defense dominated. Charlotte Catholic was running a single wing for the most part, and all I kept seeing was unblocked Good Counsel D linemen coming through the backfield chasing people
Well,
that had nowhere
Mitchell
to go.
Melton and Chris Jenkins are not easily blockable.
Yeah.
Yep.
But,
Absolutely
but
not.
I hear
When
what
you
you're
don't
saying.
block the three technique, it's pretty hard to run anything if that guy's just in the
Yeah,
backfield.
you got to keep an
immediately.
eye on
But
that guy. He's a stinker.
He's a stud. His dad was a stud.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, Good Counsel's got some very exciting guys on both sides of the ball. Their defense is fast and mean, and they absolutely dominated the game. I really think Charlotte Catholic was probably over their head right off the bat. The score at the end of the day probably should have been 21-28-0. But Good Counsel, first game of the year, had some issues, couple penalties, and again, they've got to maintain the ball. They got in trouble last year turning the ball over like any team would. And, I'm sure that's going to be a feature this week for Coach Stefanelli and the crew, forcing those backs to hold on to that football because the season is going to depend on that.
Tim, let me just tell you this. Charlotte Catholic came up here on a 15-game win streak. They're state champs. They're one of the top teams in the state of North Carolina. In that 15 games, they averaged almost 40 points a game. And I know it's week one, and you're telling me they're running a little single wing, but that defense pitching a shutout week one against a team with a bunch of guys coming back, or they wouldn't be coming up here to sniff this conference if they didn't think they had something to prove. I think that's I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal for the Falcons, man.
No, it absolutely was, and I don't want to downplay that. But I just was not impressed with Charlotte Catholic. I mean, I don't remember seeing them get too many first downs to begin with.
like a
But we know what
WCAC
kind of
Grey
football we play
Poupon
up here in the
commercial.
WCAC, and the council's preseason schedule was no joke. They scrimmaged St. Francis, and we know how talented that team is. So they really.
I heard they gave him the business out there.
Yeah, we
I heard
did.
They
We
gave him
heard
a little
Good Counsel
work.
look good against St. Francis specifically. Well, who does Good Counsel have this week, Tim?
So coming up this week, we have, which is well known as the Washington-Baltimore Zavarian Brother Classic.
Okay.
Good Counsel versus Mount St. Joe's.
Nice.
Now, Mount St. Joe's is coming in kind of hot. They're 2-0. They've got wins over St. Mary's Riken and Holy Spirit. They played their
They
first
beat
game.
the
I
Holy
think it was-
Spirit.
That's a
man.
tough
Yeah.
W right
That's
there.
a huge
How do you beat
win.
the Holy Spirit?
I don't
That's
understand
something-
it, but you know what? On any day, on
might-
any given Saturday.
You might
Even though
place
Holy
your
Many
Spirit-
have
bets.
tried
Not
and lost. But Mount St. Joe's played their first game August 23rd. So they've already got 2 games under their belt. And we're in the first week of September here. But if you guys recall, last year, Good Counsel beat them down terribly. It was 58-6 thrashing at Good Counsel last year. So I look for Mount St. Joe's to be playing at home this year and to really have some revenge ready for the Falcons. But
Well, the year before, didn't Mount St. Joe's give Good Counsel a tough one? It was
I think so.
two shocking scores. I mean, good luck predicting this one, although you guys know what I'm predicting. I saw Mount St. Joe's against St. John's in the scrimmage. They're talented, but they can't hang with that beef up front.
Nope.
No. And I
well,
know,
I think a lot of teams are going to have trouble hanging with them. But like you said, we never know till they get out there, and there's a lot on the line here. There's a lot of pride on the line for Mount St. Joe's, and pride can go a long way when you have talent on top of it. So,
Well, I'm pretty sure they got some pride out there at Good Counsel too, and Stefanelli's going to make a lot of emphasis on what they could probably improve on. And your biggest improvement every year is game 1, game 2. So I have a feeling you're going to see a different Good Counsel team as well this Saturday.
I think so, and they may not have shown everything that they can do. I mean, 'cause as vanilla as the game was this past weekend, Good Counsel I'm sure has a couple tricks up their sleeve, but we'll see when we get out there. And like I said, I'm sure Mount St. Joe's remembers that game last year. I was at that game last year, and it was a complete embarrassment. I mean, 58-6 is about as bad as it gets in a lopsided football game.
Oh, I remember that. Didn't you break your abacus in frustration after the 40th point or something like that? I recall.
They actually had me spotting the ball out there. It was a rainy game, and I was like drying off the ball. I had to make sure that
Look
a
at
fresh
you looking
ball.
to
Never a
pitch
good
in
idea.
and help out.
Of course.
He's a Xaverian. How do you say it? Zavarian.
Yeah.
Varian.
Zavarian.
A Zavarian brother.
Brothers. The Zavarian Brother Classic this weekend.
Okay.
Washington,
All right.
Baltimore. I always say Washington before Baltimore because we are just better than Baltimore. So let's just put that out there, okay? Washington,
I'll second
Baltimore.
that.
Just it's
Thank
now
you.
officially
Thank
out
you.
there. All right, Tim. Well, we look forward to having you back this season to talk about some Good Counsel football, but also generally about the WCAC. We appreciate you.
Yeah, nice job, my Zavarian brother.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure, and I was looking forward to getting back into this all summer long. So I'm just happy to be back.
Glad
and
you're back, man.
as we say there, Good Counsel on football 1, 2, 3, 4.
And he's out.
It's clockwork.
Well, I can't leave him. I can't leave a man like that just like on hold for that long. I gotta do a better job.
chimed
Of
in.
being, he did. He did. The rest, what I wanted to make sure I told him that our next broadcast, I believe, is at Good Counsel.
Yes, it is.
So we'll make sure he gets a part somewhere along the way. If he's allowed,
He's going to need an escort. You
have
ever
his
see what
face with
happens
the
to
name.
him on campus?
I can't wait.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Mobbed.
That's why he wears that disguise.
So that's the first week of October. But between now and then, lots of games, more games that happened this past week, and let's just run through them. My boys, the Bishop McNamara Fighting Mustangs, although they're not the Fighting Mustangs. I got to stop saying that. Just the Mustangs. We're just the Mustangs.
Well, there wasn't
You-
much
you're-
fight.
You're the one that
No.
You're the one that
Yeah.
put in fighting.
No, yeah,
On
I
the
did.
tennis courts, they fight.
randomly. The
You're gonna
big
start
win
a
over
fight.
Eastern, I led by a lot of guys who got a lot of time because the game seemed to be so one-sided. I love seeing a lot of 1-0s and 2-0s in the WCAC.
The whole league won last week in the Capital Conference.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
That's
a
right.
5-0 scenario for the good guys.
Yep.
That's always a fun Tuesday.
Good. Gonzaga had another good week.
They did.
One of-
33-14
yeah,
winner.
Yeah. What do you got? I mean, Caleb had
Caleb
a good
Williams,
night.
I'm telling you guys, get down there to see him play football. I guess now that Tim's off, I can take this headpiece out. It's been the next killing me. Caleb Williams put on a show, through the air and on the ground. And Gonzaga still runs, just disciplined football. That's what they do.
Although
down
they had a
there on High
couple
Street.
long plays called back.
Called back. A couple. Well, both teams got hurt by the
Yep.
the laundry.
Could have
on the
been worse,
fields,
I guess,
But
for American Air
33-14 final score down there on I Street. Gonzaga looking good so far this year.
Let me ask you this: you got to take a peek at it. The big question with the Gonzaga offense is obviously losing Ken's wannabe stepson or father figure to him.
way.
Whatever.
Mr.
Your
Terry.
your hero and idol.
Terry Marshall,
John Marshall is gone.
has done a great job.
Sam Sweeney is gone, and that's
Yeah.
20 some odd touchdowns and over 1,500 yards receiving. And my big question was, and I know Aaron Turner and Malcolm Terry were playmakers for them last year.
Malcolm
Well, I was
Terry,
just
yeah.
going to say
Those are-
Malcolm Terry the
yes,
second's the other
yes,
name that stood out
yes.
on Friday
Ingram was
night.
my guy.
Yeah. I know.
Almost more than anyone else, probably. No offense to you, John.
The
No
statue
offense.
you have to John Marshall in your
Yeah.
backyard is a bit much, Ken. It's a bit much.
It's overkill, but that's another story.
I want to see how those guys perform because we're not saying they're playing the same position, but when we're talking about replacing
Somebody
production.
was on the receiving end of those ridiculous.
Aaron
touchdowns
Turner had a
that
big
he
one.
Yeah.
He had an 80-yarder, from what I understand. But I just want to see, to the naked eye, I want to see those guys, who he's pitching it out to, because we know about the 4 Power 5 guys protecting Caleb, and we certainly know about Caleb.
Yes, we do.
So
And I want to know about the development of a tight end, on that roster, because I think
Connor Fagan played a backup role last year.
exactly. And we they have some size there, obviously. Want to know how that works into what they're doing, because if you give Caleb Williams a sturdy, reliable tight end, that's pretty unfair, if you ask me. But they should. But Coach Triver should have that. Now I do have some eligibility left. But I haven't. I'm gonna hold back.
Not down
Are you
there, you
sure?
don't.
Are you sure? I don't
No, you
know.
don't.
You're
I
misunderstanding the term tight end.
have Terry McGann working
Totally.
on my
It's a
case.
total misunderstanding.
I think I can claw back at least
Then
a
you're gonna
semester or
stop
two.
there, and we're
Okay,
gonna
all
move
right. Maddie, what else did we have?
Let's go down to the lower division. Carroll, the Lions are looking to make some serious noise this year.
Return of the Roar.
They went out to Bullis, and
Restore.
it was a
Restore the
dog
roar.
fight out in Potomac for the boys out there. Carroll was on the losing end of a 35-33
Yep.
shootout there at the end. Bullis ended up scoring late to take that victory. Let's talk about O'Connell. Paul VI did not fare so well. Both got shut out. Bishop Ireton put up 54 points against a Virginia public school, so that's a good start for them.
I always
See if they
appreciate
can-
that. Thank you,
see if they
Bishop
can keep
Ireton.
going up there at Ireton. Riken had the week off last week, and
Maddie, as Carol told us, they prefer to be called St. Mary's
Sorry,
Riken.
St. Mary's
Just,
Riken.
I'm just telling you what Carol said.
SMR.
okay,
Yeah, SMR.
All right.
I still say Riken all the time, but I just, in case Carol's watching.
We'd be remiss, of course, to not talk about Tees DeMatha Stags.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, we did a little recap on Saturday before it, but for those that didn't see it,
34 to
DeMatha got
6.
back on track, 34-6 against Imatep Charter over in Pennsylvania, one of the top schools in Pennsylvania. But Malachi Anthony had a fairly rough start against Don Bosco, but then rebounded really well. Started off the game with a 57-yard pass for a score. Marshawn Lynch, who did not need to really improve from his first game, still was the player that he was. They rolled, and I know that they got a lot better from what we saw on ESPN 2 weeks ago. And I think that they're on their way to getting to be where Bill I'm sure is going to get them in the right shape
Oh.
when it all matters.
We saw Marshawn Lloyd at Catholic University last year in that championship game. Unfortunately for
He
Imatep
did
Charter,
things a human shouldn't be able to do.
unfortunately for Imatep Charter, they also had to see him at Catholic University this past weekend because watching him play football is so pleasing to the eye, aesthetically pleasing.
He's so powerful, quick, fast.
He's
all of it
Agile, everything.
and wrapped into one.
He's
It's
a
amazing.
special
Yeah, he
special
is.
talent.
He is.
And I liked the ESPN DeMatha Don Bosco. A lot of the Don Bosco kids won.
St. John
John
Bosco.
Sorry,
We always do this
sorry.
because they played each other last
St.
week.
John Bosco.
Don Bosco jersey,
St. John
John
Bosco,
Bosco,
Bellflower,
Bellflower.
California.
Get them all.
Yes. Don Bosco Prep, New Jersey. They played last week, which further confused
Yes,
us.
yes.
They've confused us before. You Bosco sons.
The
Don,
Bosco.
did
We're
Don
not gonna let
Bosco-
it happen
did Don
again.
Bosco go to California and play John Bosco?
I don't know who went where, but I know that someone took
That's
one on
the
the chin,
ultimate right
56
there.
to 21, and it was the Don. that
The
took it
hardest.
on the chin.
Imagine announcing that game. I don't know who announced that game.
Yeah.
But I liked what I saw from DeMatha. I thought that the John Bosco kids won a ton of one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Throughout the game, and that's just good on them. But I thought DeMatha looked good. I mean, I thought they looked. You could see that they're certainly good enough to win plenty of games. And I don't know. I
And
think
again,
Bill's
when
got
we
something
say,
for us
when we
this
say,
year.
and I'm not just pointing at DeMatha, when we say this is the best conference in the country, we're not saying they're going to go out there and be undefeated all the time, right? There are some great teams out there, right? There are some great teams nationally. The fact that they're even taking on these teams in the conference that they're in is laudable enough. So we never said that they're going to win every single game that they being WCAC plays nationally.
Let me just say this DeMatha team, I know it's Bill's program, and I know that it will always be Bill's program, but he just got back. And he's got a whole new team, and he goes out to play the best team in the nation, week one, with the best quarterback in the nation, who's been together as a program legit. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to say that the game would change. I'm not just going to be a complete homer, but if they played in 10 weeks, you are not going to see what we just saw there.
No,
I'm not talking about game plan X's and O's.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about DeMatha has such a higher ceiling. Because Bellflower, St. John's Bosco can't have a much higher ceiling because they're freaking really good. They are really, really good. And they've been together, and they are an absolute legit squad. There's no doubt about it.
Numbers are down on DeMatha right now. He's playing some guys both ways that you don't see as much from a DeMatha squad. C.A. Bangura is the guy I pointed out to during the broadcast this past weekend as a guy who's sort of on my tough man list. It seems like we're kind of putting one of those lists together.
We called his name out last year in the championship.
We could find one of those guys, whether it's CA or whether it's Restrepo from Deerfield or the Napper kid from
Rashad Napper
from Southridge. We're finding these guys that are finding a place in our heart because of the way that they play the game.
Yeah, Antoine Littleton playing D tackle, almost taking a handoff on the opposite side of the ball versus the ones he already has given,
and then lining
on the
up
regular
tailback
side
on a regular basis.
Who do the Stags have this week?
They have Avalon. I thought they have Avalon.
They're off this week. It's next week.
They have a bye this week.
Bye this week and then
next week.
Avalon. Right.
Yeah.
We know who Good Counsel has. What's Gonzaga doing?
Gonzaga.
Tell him, Seal.
They travel up to New Jersey to face the aforementioned Don
Bosco.
See, that's where we were going.
A totally
That's
different
right.
Bosco.
Don Bosco, Jersey. Forget about it, Marigold.
Don
You got
Bosco.
this.
So
Too many Boscos.
They should roll.
So many Boscos.
I don't want to put any jinx on Gonzaga, but that should be a good game for
business
the
trip.
WCAC.
Just like DeMatha is a business trip.
This is
out of state.
This is no joke.
It's
for
not
Gonzaga.
They need to put one on them.
This might be their toughest non-conference game.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
you go on the road in that
Solid
conference.
road trip.
Good luck to the Purple Eagles on the road this week.
They're not the only ones traveling to the Garden State.
What do you got?
St. John's Cadets take on the St. Joe's Prep.
Friday night Jersey. St. John's Gonzaga.
Up at Rutgers University. The battle on the Raritan River. It's a big event. They're doing they did games this weekend and then next weekend as well. This is a big,
Where can we
big
see
showcase. Not certain that it's going to be broadcast. I haven't seen anything.
You're not going to Periscope it?
I'm not going to Periscope. I'll be there on the sidelines taking some photographs.
All right.
Maybe provide some updates. But
Yeah, we'll take your updates.
8
Who else is in
p.m.
action?
kickoff, so that's a great Friday Night Lights action. Flint Hill at Paul VI, then McNamara Riverdale Baptist. That rounds out your Friday night action. Good Counsel Mount St. Joe's on Saturday, as we know. Fork Union at O'Connell. Ireton's traveling up to New York to play Cardinal O'Hara. Carroll will take on Theodore Roosevelt. And St. Mary's Riken plays Calvert Hall at Georgetown University Saturday
Go
night.
St. Mary's
at
Riken.
7 p.m.
Beat down that Baltimore team.
Some good action in the area this weekend. Get out there and see some gridiron, guys.
And also, I not that I would have no other reason to root for the Mustangs, but the whole Riverdale having to change cost us the ability to broadcast that game live. That was on our schedule. We were going to be at McNamara on Saturday. That is no longer the case because it's at Riverdale. So go Mustangs, avenge First Amendment sports. I guess, I just saw Red Dawn recently.
Do it for us.
Represent the conference.
I guess so. Yeah, for you. Do it for T. It's his birthday.
Birthday
Coach
present.
Malloy, it's T's birthday.
He asked, not me.
I mean,
Lamont Jordan running the old keeper around the end. on us.
Yes. He
yeah,
knows a thing
take
or two about
Lamont
running the
Jordan
ball.
down. Take him down. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Any final thoughts, Real Deal?
That's it. Looking forward to getting back out there this weekend. And, of course, seeing First Amendment sports back out there in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Get the WCAC schedule started. Happy birthday, birthday boy.
Appreciate it, man. No, it was great. Great. This is a great way, like I said, to celebrate my birthday. Be talking about these young men.
Yep.
Stay grounded, be rounded. Great job this weekend. Hopefully everybody stayed healthy and looking forward to more coming up.
Cam and Ricka.
And I'm just going to say, as a St. John's alum, I've never been as proud as I was that afternoon. You take everything out of it, for the time being, forget about First Amendment or us broadcasting or anything to do with it. I was so proud of the way that situation was handled. I thought in my head, if I was a father on a team that came up to play at St. John's, and that happened to my son or a young man who'd been at my house, a friend of my son's, or someone that was part of my community, that's what a great place for them to have played, for something like that to have gone down. Because hindsight is 2020, and the way from start to finish it was taken care of. I was just so proud of the kids in the helmets. The adults, they're supposed to be making choices like that. And Griff has got everything lined up in a row, and that guy's got a great mind, and he was awesome. But to have the kids conditioned to do what they did, to watch how they responded, it made a man feel real proud. Now, you guys did a great job when you guys were talking about that. That wasn't really my place to sit there and talk about it.
That's the first seat that we talk about.
Yeah,
WCAC.
I was super proud about that, to be a part of it, to watch it go down, and most importantly, young Duron King. We reached out to him. He responded to let us know he was doing just fine.
You're the man, Duron.
Yeah, that was cool as hell, Duron.
Good
for you, bud. We'll be pulling for all you guys, and good luck down there in the 8A district. Good luck, and they have a shot. To make to cause some damage down there, and we'll be rooting for him.
And I'm glad that Griff doesn't have to haul in that ice tub on the patio that he's had out there just in case, we got overheated during this show. I mean, first of all, we appreciate that. Secondly, I feel bad now he's going to have to drain it himself, obviously. So we got another show to do.
You just spoiled T's birthday surprise.
Oh, no, he's going in the ice tub. Pat Ward and Mike Ward will drag the backup one in the driveway back around.
There you go. Till next week, be a good sport.
On behalf of First Amendment Sports, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this Tuesday night. I'm Ken Marangolo, and this was the WCAC Spectacular.
It's long.
It's great.
That's a lot. WCAC.
Should we sing Happy Birthday to T for our YouTube audience, Kevin?
It's the Stevie Wonder one.
Just me and you.
Happy birthday to you.
Later.
Happy birthday.